and taking the time. And there is a difference in being a role player and coming in and playing a role and coming in off of an injury. There is a rhythm. But when you are Caitlin Clark and you have the ball in your hands and you are on the other team's scouting report, to come in half and not be able to be in that amount of, I would say, rhythm of the game, because the rhythm of the game changes towards the end of the year. And so when it started getting closer to the end of the regular season, I was like, it's dangerous to come back during playoff basketball because the whole flow, the physicality, all of that is different. And so I know it's difficult to kind of take time and understand the big picture, especially when you're living with tunnel vision and you've worked so hard to get to where you're at, but it's the smart thing. And I'm proud of this generation for taking the time they need, looking at the bigger picture, and making sure that they get healthy. So, Caitlin Clark, hope you feel better. You have a great off season and you come back.
What if I told you that the defining moment of Caitlin Clark's rookie season didn't even take place on the court? Because with just a few words, Candace Parker, one of the most respected legends in WNBA history, may have completely shifted the power dynamic in women's basketball. The league wanted fans to see Clark's season-ending announcement as nothing more than bad luck, another injury, another disappointing story we've all seen before. But when Parker spoke up, she tore the mask right off the WNBA's polished facade. She confirmed what millions had already suspected. This wasn't just about an injury, it was about exploitation, about neglect, about a league more than happy to profit off Clark's stardom, but unwilling to protect the very player keeping it alive. Candace didn't give out sympathy, she dropped a bombshell, and in doing so, she handed Clark something even more valuable than comfort. Permission. Permission to say no. Permission to step back. And most importantly, permission to fight back. That's when the story flipped. Clark's decision to shut down her season wasn't weakness. It wasn't giving up. It was a calculated strike. One that left the WNBA exposed, scrambling, and desperate to hold on to the empire she had built for them. This isn't the sad ending to a rookie year. This is rebellion. And Clark just proved she has the power to bring the entire league to its knees if she chooses. Tonight, we're connecting the dots from Clark's rise as the WNBA's golden goose to the betrayal that turned her into its most dangerous threat, all the way to Candace Parker's explosive truth that turned disappointment into vengeance. By the end of this, one thing will be undeniable. Caitlin Clark isn't just here to play basketball, she's here to wage war, and the league she once carried on her back may not survive the battle. Before Caitlin Clark, the WNBA was on life support, struggling with empty arenas, stagnant TV ratings, and sponsors too cautious to invest in a product that couldn't break through. But everything changed the second she stepped onto the scene, and now, that same player could be the one to tear the system apart. Then Caitlin Clark arrived, and overnight, everything changed. This wasn't just hype, it was a cultural shockwave. They called it Clark Mania, and the numbers prove why. Crowds didn't just grow when she stepped on the court, they exploded. The Indiana Fever's average attendance nearly doubled with Clark, jumping to almost 17,000 fans a game. Without her, barely 8,500. That's an 88% swing, a number so staggering most franchises could only dream of it, and the ripple effect didn't stop at the arena doors. On TV, Clark turned routine matchups into national events. Her games averaged over 1.1 million viewers, obliterating the league's usual ceiling. Meanwhile, games without her, they struggled to scrape 400,000. When Clark went down, Nationals viewership collapsed by more than half. That isn't progress, that's dependency. Caitlin Clark wasn't just a rookie, she was the business plan, the golden goose carrying the entire league into a new era of relevance and revenue. Sponsors noticed too. Brands that had never touched the WNBA suddenly poured in with million-dollar deals just to be tied to her name. Media outlets that once buried women's basketball at the bottom of their coverage now led with Clark's highlights. She was everywhere. Commercials, social media, billboards. For the first time, the WNBA wasn't chasing relevance. It was living it, breathing it, selling it, and it all came back to one name: Caitlin Clark. But here's the harsh truth about golden geese. You protect them, you guard them with everything you have, because if you lose them, the system collapses. Instead of shielding their most valuable player, the league did the opposite. They left her exposed. From the moment Clark set foot on a WNBA court, it was clear she had a target on her back. Defenders didn't just guard her hard, they hunted her. What should have been highlight reels of sold-out arenas and unforgettable shots turned into viral clips of Clark being shoved, slammed, elbowed, and sent to the floor, and that's where the betrayal began. This wasn't rookie hazing, this was a hunting season. Opponents treated Clark like she was stepping into an MMA cage, not a basketball court. Elbows flew that would have drawn ejections anywhere else. Trash talk went far beyond competitive banter. It was personal, relentless, and vicious. The message was clear. If Caitlin Clark was going to be the face of the WNBA, she'd have to bleed for it. And where were the referees? Looking the other way. Where was the league office? Nowhere to be found. Instead of protecting their biggest star, they let the chaos play out, night after night. Why? Because drama sells. Every shove, every scuffle, every viral clip of Clark getting knocked down brought clicks, headlines, and money. The league cashed in, while Clark's body paid the price. Even her own teammate Sophie Cunningham couldn't stay silent. She called out the WNBA and its officials, demanding they protect the player carrying the entire league on her shoulders. And let's be honest, if a teammate has to beg the league to do its job, the system isn't just broken, it's rigged. The outcome was inevitable. No matter how tough Clark is, no matter how strong her willpower, no athlete can withstand constant unchecked punishment forever. She wasn't losing to better players. She was losing to a system that exploited her for profit. And then the unthinkable happened. For the first time in her career, college or pro, Caitlin Clark couldn't go. The Iron Horse, the competitor who never sat out, who played through exhaustion and pressure, was forced to the sidelines. This wasn't bad luck. This wasn't coincidence. This was the direct cost of a league that saw her as a product, not a person. In that moment, everything shifted. Clark wasn't just hurt, she was betrayed. For years, she had been defined by one thing: durability. At Iowa, she carried entire seasons without breaking. In the WNBA, she was expected to do the same. Her body may have been bruised, but her will was unshakable. Until now. The announcement stunned the sports world. Fans were shocked. Reporters scrambled. Opponents, many who had targeted her all year, smirked quietly in the background. But when Caitlin Clark finally spoke, her words landed with chilling force. She didn't rant, she didn't whine, she didn't point fingers, she simply told the truth. Instead of lashing out, Caitlin Clark did something even more powerful. She admitted what no one thought they'd ever hear from her. She needed to step away. On the surface, she framed it as rest and recovery, but if you listened closely, the truth was there between the lines. This wasn't about one hard foul, it wasn't just fatigue, it was everything. The endless targeting, the zero protection, the non-stop grind of being the WNBA's golden goose without the shield that should have come with it. With that single announcement, Clark shattered the illusion the league had worked so hard to sell. The WNBA wanted fans to believe in an unstoppable, unbreakable superstar. Instead, Clark proved that even the strongest player alive has limits, and those limits had been crossed. Her fans erupted. Social media lit up with outrage, demanding answers the league refused to give. Why wasn't she protected? Why didn't anyone step in? How could the WNBA gamble with the health of the very player, keeping them relevant? The league's silence made her words even louder. This wasn't just about her body breaking down. It was her spirit drawing a line in the sand. She was done being the punching bag, done being the pawn, done being thrown to the wolves. This wasn't an injury. This was the breaking point. And from that moment forward, the story wasn't about basketball anymore. It was about power, about money, about hypocrisy, and about a war ready to spill far beyond the hardwood. When Caitlin Clark announced she was shutting it down, the WNBA braced for backlash. They expected angry fans, a few tough questions from reporters, and then for the storm to fade. What they didn't expect was Candace Parker, because Candace isn't just another voice in women's basketball. She's the voice, a two-time MVP, a finals MVP, an Olympic gold medalist, a legend whose legacy runs so deep that even the league office can't pretend not to hear her. And when Parker spoke on Clark's situation, the WNBA's carefully polished PR machine collapsed in an instant. She didn't downplay it. She didn't spin it as unfortunate or part of the game. She stared straight into the camera and said what everyone else was too afraid to admit. Caitlin Clark was being used. Parker laid it out plain. Clark's workload was unsustainable. The punishment she took on the court was brutal, and the league sat back and let it happen. Then she asked the one question no executive wanted to face. If this is how you treat the player carrying your league, what message does that send to every other star? With that one question, Candace Parker did what Caitlin Clark herself couldn't. She confirmed the suspicion every fan had been whispering. This wasn't wasn't bad luck. This wasn't random. This was negligence. And worse than that, it was greed. Because let's be honest, the WNBA cashed in on Clark at every turn. Her name sold out arenas. Her highlights drove record-breaking TV numbers. Her face was plastered across every reel and every headline. But when it came to protecting her, when it came to giving her the basic respect of a whistle, the league looked the other way. Parker ripped that hypocrisy wide open with one devastating truth bomb. And here's why it mattered. Clark wasn't standing alone anymore. For the first time, a legend with nothing to lose spoke out on her behalf. And that support didn't just echo, it thundered. Fans treated Parker's words as confirmation. The media spun it as a reckoning. Even Clark's harshest critics had to stop and listen. Because when Candace Parker speaks, you don't dismiss it. You pay attention. The league thought it had control of the narrative. But Parker ripped that control away and handed it right back to Clark. Sharper, louder, more powerful than ever. And that's the moment this story flipped, from damage control to outright rebellion. Up until then, the WNBA had the upper hand. They shaped the headlines. They chose the viral clips. They controlled how Caitlin Clark was presented to the world. But Parker's words changed everything. Suddenly, it wasn't the league spinning the story. It was a legend. Untouchable, unfiltered, and impossible to silence with PR statements or glossy highlight packages. And here's the part that shook the foundation. Fans trusted Parker more than they trusted the WNBA itself. That's when the balance of power shifted. Caitlin Clark, cornered all season, targeted by veterans, ignored by refs, crushed by the schedule, was no longer isolated. With Parker's voice behind her, she transformed from a victim into a symbol of everything the league had gotten wrong. And sponsors noticed. The same corporations that lined up to plaster their logos next to Clark's image suddenly started asking uncomfortable questions. If the league couldn't protect its brightest star, how long before the money dried up? How long before fans stopped showing up? This wasn't just basketball anymore. This was leverage. For the first time in WNBA history, the power wasn't in the league's hands. It was in Caitlin Clark's. Think about it. If Clark walked away tomorrow, ratings would crash overnight. Ticket sales gone. National buzz gone. The WNBA would be forced to face the truth they've tried to bury for years. Without Clark, the entire empire collapses. And that realization gave Clark something she hadn't had all season. Control. Suddenly, every choice she made carried weight. Every word, every pause, every appearance. Each one reminded the league who built this momentum. Not the referees, not the veterans, not the front office. It was Caitlin Clark. And now she knew it. The balance of power had flipped. For the first time ever, the WNBA needed Caitlin Clark more than she needed them. And that's when the story turned even darker, because power doesn't just reveal the truth, it exposes enemies. By this point, Clark had already flipped the league upside down. The WNBA couldn't hide behind excuses anymore. Everyone knew. The sponsors knew, the fans knew, and thanks to Candace Parker, the players knew too. But here's what really shook the league. Clark still had one card left to play, the one no one thought she'd even consider, the nuclear option, because Caitlin Clark doesn't have to play in the WNBA, and that's the secret the league doesn't want anyone to say out loud. She's bigger than the system itself. If she wanted, she could walk tomorrow. She could sign overseas. She could cut direct deals with sponsors. She could even build her own platform, and she'd still be one of the most famous athletes on the planet. That possibility, that's what keeps WNBA executives awake at night. Think about it. The NBA's power comes from the fact that its stars are tied to the system. LeBron, Steph, Giannis, they need the league. But Caitlin Clark, she's different. She's not locked in. She's untouchable. She commands millions of fans. Billion-dollar brands stand behind her. And legends like Candace Parker are amplifying her voice. And here's the part that scares the league most. The fans would follow her anywhere. If Clark ever decided the WNBA wasn't worth her time, arenas would go silent. TV ratings would nosedive. That growth the league brags about, it would collapse like a house of cards in slow motion. And deep down, everyone knows it. The veterans who resent her, the refs who overlook her, and the executives cashing checks off her name. That's why her silence after Parker's comments sent shockwaves. She didn't lash out. She didn't make promises. She let the world sit with the idea that maybe, just maybe, she might not come back at all. And that silence, that was the nuclear option. Because in that moment, Caitlin Clark didn't need to speak. The WNBA was forced to face an uncomfortable truth. Their survival now depended on the very player they failed to protect. The question wasn't whether Clark could burn the system down. It was whether she would choose to. And here's the reality. This fight was never just about hard fouls or missed whistles. It wasn't even about a season or one injury. This is about something much bigger, something the league never prepared for. When Candace Parker spoke out and Clark drew her line in the sand, the battle instantly moved beyond the hardwood. This wasn't Clark against jealous veterans. It wasn't Clark versus bad officiating. It was Clark versus the system itself. A system built on mediocrity that she had just shattered. At its core, this war is about who owns the future, who controls women's basketball, the league with its executives and politics, or the players, the ones whose names actually sell out arenas, move jerseys, and make fans care. For the first time, the answer is crystal clear, and it's not the league. Because Caitlin Clark has already done what no commissioner, no marketing campaign, and no veteran ever could. She carried the sport on her back and turned it into a movement. And now, with the nuclear option hanging in the air, she doesn't just hold influence, she holds dominance. And here's what truly terrifies the WNBA. This fight is no longer just about Caitlin Clark. Other players are watching. Rising stars are paying attention. Sponsors are already reevaluating their loyalty. If Clark wins this war, the entire game changes. The next generation won't be shackled by outdated league rules. They'll see the truth. The power doesn't belong to the front office. It belongs to the players and the fans who follow them. The league thought they were shaping their biggest star. Instead, they created their biggest threat. And unless they change, unless they start protecting and respecting the very players they profit from, Caitlin Clark won't just shine a light on their failures. She'll ignite a movement that could bring the entire system crashing down. Because this isn't just about basketball anymore. This is business. This is leverage. This is war. By stepping away, Clark didn't just sit out a season. She delivered a message. A message so powerful it rattled the foundation of the WNBA and exposed the truth they've tried to bury for years. She reminded everyone exactly where the power lies. She reminded the league who drives the ratings, the revenue, and the relevance. But don't think for a second the fight is finished. The season might be over for her, but her battle is only beginning. The WNBA is now staring down the very player they once exploited. Only this time, she's holding all the cards. The numbers don't lie. Ratings have dipped. Sponsors are uneasy. Fans are restless. And Clark? She's sitting in silence, planning her next move, fully aware that the league needs her far more than she needs them. And here's the real cliffhanger. It's not when she comes back, it's if. What if Clark decides to walk away entirely? What if she takes her talents overseas, where she'll be protected and paid what she's worth? What if she builds her own platform that makes the WNBA irrelevant overnight? And what if other stars watch her and realize they hold that same power? This story has never been about one season. It's about leverage, about power, about the reckoning of a league that thought it could cash in on its brightest star without consequence. Caitlin Clark has drawn the line, and now everyone, executives, sponsors, veterans, and fans, is being forced to pick a side. The question haunting the league isn't when she'll return. The real question is, will she ever return at all? And when that answer comes, it won't just change her future. It could redefine the WNBA forever.